Achieving the Millennium Development Goals is too big of a task for government to carry on by itself, so I am glad, honored, and thankful that the private sector, and in my case, the social sector, have been included in this effort by UNDESA. VicTEAMS is a non-profit social startup that creates, develops, and invests on technologies that help societies help themselves. The first problem we have decided to tackle is crime, and our pilot country is my native Venezuela. Venezuelans have consistently and repeatedly identified crime and violence as their number one concern, and experts have identified it as the number one threat to public health. In order to situate you in the Venezuelan context, let me give you some facts. It is estimated that in the last 10 years there have been over 123,000 homicides in Venezuela. In 2006, the UN proclaimed Venezuela the country with the highest rate of gun-related violence in the world. Since then, violence has been steadily going up, reaching over 16,000 homicides in 2009. Unsurprisingly, crime data has been highly politicized. For example, 2003 is the last year in which official homicide statistics were published. This has led Venezuela into a vicious cycle, where crime occurs but due to the state's failure to publish reliable information and due to the market's failure to fill this data void, it is easier for authorities to wash their hands clean, so to speak, of their mismanagement of public safety. This, in turn, proliferates crime. The evidence supports this claim. According to the Observatorio Venezolano de la Violencia, a respected Venezuelan think tank, the rise in crime incidents has been accompanied by a rise in impunity. In 2007 and 2008, for example, only 9 suspects were detained for every 100 homicides, and in 2009, at least 91% of homicides didn't lead to any detentions. Although this story is based on Venezuela, citizens of many developing nations face a similar checkmate, a situation of high risk but little information to hold authorities accountable and take preventive measures. Crime statistics may be depressing, but the truth is that they are also quite helpful. If citizens know what is happening, how it is happening, where and when, then it becomes much easier for us to evaluate our exposure, act preemptively, and minimize our risk. Academics can also study the phenomena scientifically, and the authorities can improve their public administration. So, having established the usefulness of information, the question that really prompted us to start VicTEAMS was, how do we bring the benefits of information to countries where information is, for one reason or another, scarce? Our solution, which you can see on the screen, was to create a web application that allows citizens to report crime, explore and make sense of the data collected, and use the information for improving their life. All of this for free. The app has 3 components: the reporting, the exploring, and the acting components. This is how each works. Upon entering VicTEAMS, citizens can report any instance in which they were victims of crime. The report consists of a short survey based on international standards, the same one used by the UN Victimization Survey, and allows users to report any incident past 1994. Citizens have full control of their information. They can make it public or private, in which case it will not appear on the map. Reports are completely anonymous, confidential, and citizens can revise, edit, and delete the reports at any point in time. By empowering citizens to report crime in an easy and safe way, VicTEAMS opens the way for a more complete and real-time crime database, a bottom-up database from the citizens for the citizens. But the data by itself is not enough. Making it accessible is more than putting it in open data formats. It means providing users with tools to make sense of the information, attach meaning to it. We therefore offer explorative tools to translate the data into meaningful and relevant information. For example, the interactive crime map allows users to filter through the data, controlling temporal and spatial variables. You can filter by type of data of crime, time and date, sex of offender, and so on. You can also filter by year and click on a particular crime to see all the information provided by the victim. Lastly, we provide social tools to encourage, reinforce, and facilitate citizen activism. Users of VicTEAMS can engage with each other to find more information on a given crime report. You can comment on a report, ask further questions to the victim, and share relevant information of your own. Furthermore, users of VicTEAMS can create groups to discuss crime in their neighborhood and exploit the so-called wisdom of crowds to find collective solutions to the issues they see affecting their communities. To recap, VicTEAMS provides a tool for citizens to fill the data void left by the state and the market. We provide tools for citizens to make sense of this information and tools for citizens to use this information for action. Of course, the challenges abound. We find the success of projects like ours is 10% about technology and 90% about people. Technology development is only constrained by resources and imagination. We have plenty of the latter, and even though resources are hard to get by, it is still manageable. People, on the other hand, are a different story. Unfortunately, most people's engagement with technology is not guided by a desire to change the world. Most people go online for more mundane reasons. To convince them to dedicate their online time to our cause is a continuous effort. Another major challenge has been to convince authorities, be it academics, politicians, or NGO directors, of the benefits of bottom-up data. I am aware of the statistical issues my data arises. I would be happy to tell you more about our quality standards and the questions around, but let me just emphasize that once we have the data, we can talk about the proper ways to use it, or interpret it as conservatively as we want. But first, we must collect the data. We must walk before we run. Despite these challenges, we are optimistic about the initiative because, at least in Venezuela, there was a tangible need for an initiative like VicTEAMS even before we started the project. Allow me to illustrate this with 3 examples. This is a member of the Committee of VicTEAMS Against Impunity. The picture she's holding is a relative of hers that was murdered. What the Committee of VicTEAMS does is collect cases like this one and aggregate them in an extra-official parallel database, and then they use this data to collectively demand what they cannot demand as individuals: justice. This is a graffiti on a street in Caracas. The graffiti was painted by a regular citizen who grew tired of seeing people kidnapped on his street. This person decided to alert his fellow citizens of the dangers of this street and prevent them from being kidnapped themselves. It is quite a simple solution, but it shows the willingness of citizens to help and protect each other. Lastly, Venezuelans have recognized the power of tools like Twitter for cooperation. I want to draw your attention to this particular example on the screen, No Violencia VE, because it is a Twitter account we created to pioneer the use of Twitter as a tool for citizen security. Through this account, we allowed citizens to anonymously broadcast their experiences through us so that they could alert their fellow citizens. The initiative has been quite successful. These 3 cases illustrate the basic dynamics VicTEAMS is tapping. The Committee of VicTEAMS illustrates the power of data for accountability. The graffitis on the streets illustrate the willingness of citizens to help each other. The embrace of social media in creative, proactive ways illustrates the openness of citizens to use technology to improve their quality of life. This makes clear our role so far has been that of an enabler. We provide the missing link between the social initiatives, the human impulses or dynamics already at play within society, and technology. We fill a gap. We bridge this societal end with the technological means to achieving that end. We provide a common channel that allows the sum of the initiatives to have a larger social impact than its parts. A single, common platform allows them to increase the scale and scope of their social impact at little to no cost. I guess the basic message in the context of our agenda in this workshop is that technology, and more specifically ICTs, already available to the majorities like cell phones and computers, can be leveraged to achieve a greater social impact, and thus a greater improvement in people's life. Going forward, we are developing a platform to enable SMS reporting. This is a key priority for us because cell phone penetration is so much higher than computer penetration in the developing world. For example, in Venezuela, our pilot country, 99% of the population has access to a mobile phone. We are also developing further social tools to foster citizen interaction and proactivity. We don't want to be merely a monitoring tool, but actually an activism tool. Lastly, we are working on making VicTEAMS global. Before concluding, allow me to take a step back to further connect what I have said so far with the goals of this 3-day summit on citizen engagement for the achievement of the MDGs. Violence is the #1 concern for public health in many countries, including Venezuela, so it should be clear why violence should be tackled if we want to achieve the Millennium Development Goals. We have been asking ourselves, how can we engage citizens to achieve the MDGs? But realize that the answer to this question depends on who is asking the question. We created VicTEAMS as an answer to this question from the point of view of civil society. However, I would like to highlight why I think it could also be an answer from the point of view of governments. Those of you in the audience representing countries with a similar situation to that of Venezuela could use VicTEAMS as a vehicle for disseminating important crime data, alerting your citizenry of dangerous places, monitoring corruption, human rights abuses, and so on. And you could use it as a vehicle for receiving crime reports and for collaborating and cooperating with your citizenry to solve these tough issues. My humble conclusion is that if society needs to engage, it will do so with or without you. Please don't let your countries get to the point where citizens have only each other. Like VicTEAMS, there are many innovative initiatives that can help you, the state, help your citizens. As public servants, you are faced with a choice. Be reactive about citizen engagement tomorrow, or be proactive about it today. I hope you recognize the usefulness of our work to keep government relevant and citizens safe. Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you a pleasant stay in the beautiful city of Barcelona.